Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Most of his games end up in the can. Yeah. I guess there are a few decent titles that feature our favorite web crawler, but looking at the sheer amount of games he has, that percentage is really low. But what can you expect? Spider-Man is such a popular superhero, everyone wants to cash in where they can on that. And Marvel is nice enough to lend their names for a lot of stuff. So it's not really surprising that JAKKS Pacific also got their hands on the license and made a plug and play unit out of it in 2004. They apparently get their hands on any popular franchise these days. So did they actually make something fun with it? Well, let's find out. But first, let's check out the unit itself. Alright, so this is the Spider-Man plug and play unit from JAKKS Pacific, and I should say the older unit since I think they have a newer one, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, let's check what they have on the back for us. There's a standard on-off switch with an LED indicator, a tiny reset button to reset the unit, I think. Mine doesn't store high scores, so I don't know what's that all about. Then there's a menu button, which basically means the pause button. Well, there are of course batteries required to play this, 4 AA batteries, and there is another screw of course. Let's check out the button layout of the controller itself. Down here we have an A button and a B button, which are at stupid locations. I mean, if you're left-handed, then you're pretty screwed. On top of the joystick we have another spider thingy button, and we have the joystick of itself of course, which feels kinda stiff and weak. It won't last long, I think, in rough hands. The whole thing kinda looks stupid. I mean, it kinda looks like an elephant trunk or a big spider. You know, let's just check out the game. The unit actually features 5 separate games with their own high score tables. Let's look at each of them. Let's first try out Spider Training. That sounds like a good place to start. The game gives you a little explanation on each game when they start. And no, it's not the video compression that makes these hard to read, they're just like that. Anyway, this game is set in Spider-Man's secret training facility. Yeah, this game is full of revelations, as you can tell. It's a basic whack-a-mole game in which you have to whap a certain amount of villains within the time limit without hitting any of the good guys. If you whap those, the game immediately ends. All the characters are represented by pixelated pictures of themselves, and it really helps that there is either a blue or red border around them to distinguish friend from foe. This game probably makes the best use of the joystick, which is kind of ironic since it's also pretty much the simplest game. Well, after having had some practice, let's move on and get down with Venom in Venom's Vindication. Vindication? What's that all about? Alright Venom, let's hear you out. What makes it right that you do what you do? Oh, I'm sorry. I can't hear you when you're throwing all these bombs. Let me catch them for you. And that's all you do in this game. Catch Venom's bombs, since if they hit the ground, you lose like half your life. As you're catching these bombs, some street punks will come out to give Spider-Man a beating. Man, when did anyone actually want to help Venom out like that? I'd piss my pants myself if I saw that loony on the loose dropping radioactive web bombs on the street like that. In later levels, Venom tries to trick you a bit, but it remains a very simple and boring game. On the end of the level, Venom just runs into a wall and it starts over. I just want to web up there and Vindicate a good pummeling on his ass already. There's really not much else to say about this game. It can be a fun challenge for a bit, I guess. It's certainly not the worst out of the 5 games, but it's just too simple to keep your interest for long. It's also fairly cheap since you can't pass through street punks, so you often arrive too late to catch a bomb if one is in your way. Let's move on to Escape from the Sewer then. This is a maze game in the, well, you guessed it, the sewer. Strangely enough, the object is not to escape though. Instead, it's to defuse bombs within the time limit. Really, couldn't they think of something better than bombs again? And how does Spidey defuse bombs, you may ask? Well, by webbing them of course. Why send in the bomb squad? Just web those suckers up and they explode less violently or something. But wait, who put all these bombs there anyway? Why, it's the lizard, of course, since we all know that bombs are his expertise and all, and boy, has he been busy lately. I don't know how many wives he has and how long it would take, but he made some offspring apparently. I'm not as good in multiplication as the dog, but you can't really call what he did multiplication anymore. It's more like raising to a power what he did. The sewer is full of his clones. They all only take one shot of the web to get stunned for a while though, so they're not really that tough. It's a very basic maze game. It's just boring and the levels don't change the scenery up at all. Another real problem is that the level layout is just too simplistic. Calling this an actual maze is stretching it pretty damn far, since fighting a dead end that consists of more than 3 spaces is pretty rare. For the most part you are following more or less a linear path through it. This game just takes way too long to be any fun. Now let's check out Vulture's venture, which is to destroy Spider-Man, of course. He actually managed to catch our hero and hung him to dry above a construction site. Now he's shooting missiles at the beam on which he tied Spider-Man. Either that thing is broke or he's a real idiot. Just shoot the guy and be done with it is what I say. Anyway, he also flies by and throws some, more bombs. The makers of this game have some kind of a bomb fetish or something. The object is to destroy the incoming projectiles, much like Missile Command. The big problem here is that it's just hard to aim and you have a very short time window to actually do so. When the beam has sustained enough damage, Spidey goes squash. So now there's only one more game left, and it's the biggest of the bunch too. Let's go to the streets of the city. Being the biggest and most complex one, it's a given that this one should not give an explanation on the setting and controls in game, right? Well, yeah, that seems to make sense somehow at least. It's a light platforming game. You can jump, shoot out a web to stun enemies, and when you're close enough give them a good beating. Which is pretty delayed by the way. If an enemy takes more than one hit to kill, you will get hurt yourself. You can of course also swing around, but that's really not too useful in this game, since you can't really continue swinging. Often you'll swing and at the end of the swing you'll be over a death pit and you go bye bye. You can also stick to walls on buildings and that is more useful. So you collect the cash, get to the end, and after 2 levels of that you fight an actual boss, Rhino. The battle seems to be taking place in a bank, so did he lose all his money while actually taking it to the bank, or did Spider-Man just steal the money off the street so he could afford to rent on his secret facility and is now trying to frame it on Rhino? I don't know, I guess we'll read that in tomorrow's Daily Bugle. Anyway, Rhino doesn't put up much of a fight, being the brain-dead guy that he is, so he'll soon move on to the next stage and... You're kidding me. They even had to put in those damn bombs in here too. You know what, screw it, I'm done. This game sucks. All games suffer from horrible stiff controls too. These games are just not made to be played with a joystick. The visuals are, well, for 2004 standards, they are pretty bad. But they are alright. But the Super Nintendo had better graphics and that's pretty sad in 2004. The sound isn't all too hot neither. It's not terrible, it's just bland and boring. Worst of all, in my opinion at least, is that this game is a complete insult to the Spider-Man universe. It only uses the names, but doesn't look to see if things actually fit in. It doesn't tie things together, it's just a cheap cash-in project. Features zero originality, it's no fun to play and not even interesting for fans. It's this kind of marketing that pisses me off. If you have a license, at least do something to please the fans with it, who will buy it anyway because of the name. You know what's funny and sad at the same time? That on sites like Amazon this thing actually gets good reviews. Like that's going to send out a great message to JAKKS Pacific. Sure, make more. Oh, but do make the bosses easier since some people can't even beat those. What happened to human evolution here? I know it's aimed at children, but really what's wrong with these parents? Get your kid a Sega Genesis or a Super Nintendo with a couple of games. It'll cost you about as much as this did on retail day and your kids will thank you later. Buying this will just dumb them down. Well, that was my little review this time and I guess it turned in a bit of a rant too. I'm sorry this one's so negative, but it was really hard to find good things in this one. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this one, or TV games in general. It's a real shame so many are stained by cheap marketing tactics since they overshadow the few good ones that are out there. I thank you all for watching once again and until next time, take care.